All right, so Greeley City Council met last night for the work session. One of the things discussed was the West Greeley Citizen Oversight Committee that had been proposed. So one thing that was very clear is that there is still a lot of division among council and seemingly a whole lot of uncertainty around what this committee is, who's going to comprise it, what the process is. There were a few things that were decided upon, so I'm going to start with that first. First, they did decide that they are going to push back the date for applications. Initially, that was supposed to end next Monday, which is the 30th or the 31st, and they decided after some discussion that they're going to extend that by 2 weeks. And so it sounds like applications will actually close. I think that comes to the 14th then. And then there was discussion around exactly how the members will be chosen. There were a couple different ideas thrown out. What it sounds like they settled on is they will be having a special session at City Hall or City Center South in the chambers on Thursday, April 16th. And during that, they will interview all of the applicants. And then council will meet. They will see if they each say, here are the people that I want. If there's consensus there, great, those people go on. Otherwise, there'll be continued discussion. They will then either release who is getting on council that night or at the following city council meeting, which will be on the 21st. So they'd said initially they had thought it was going to be 9 members total. Now they're saying 9 members plus 1. So that plus 1 is a city council member who's non-voting, and the other 9 will be members of the community. There had also been stuff thrown out previously around the makeup of that, of how many yeses, how many nos, would we distribute between wards, what that was going to look like. There wasn't any really hard set rules. They basically just said that, ideally we would have representation from the whole city, but we'll see what happens. Also, Mayor Pro Tem McDonald had mentioned meeting with community members at the last city council meeting and them proposing names. Well, then this meeting, ultimately what got said was rather than those groups coming and saying, hey, here are the people we'd like you to choose from, instead they're just supposed to nominate within themselves who applies. So it sounds like they won't actually have any say in that other than they'll convince the people within their respective groups to apply to it, but then they will be within the bigger pool anyways. So yeah, it doesn't look like that's really going anywhere further. As of last night, 16 people had applied for the committee. There was a lot of back and forth around who exactly should be on that committee. So we had Councilmember DeBeauty, who was saying we really need to have experts. We need to have lawyers, economists, people who have some specialties on that committee. And then other council members were saying that it should just be community members, that we already have the experts. I believe Olson was one of the people saying, well, we already have all the experts that are in the room. This should just be community members. And I think DeBeauty wasn't saying non-community members. She was just saying community members that specialize in areas in this. Even the timing of it seems really confusing. So Mayor Hall had referenced the 6 months that had been thrown out at the last meeting of like 6 to 9 months. And he said this could actually possibly be done in 6 weeks. He doesn't really see it going over 6 months. Meanwhile, other council members are seeing this being a much longer process. Councilmember DeBeauty was concerned around why we're rushing everything. That was part of why they pushed the application back. Roth had proposed moving it back 2 weeks. But I did appreciate, it's one of the first times I've really heard accountability on the council where she had said, we made our bet and we need to lie in it. I understand that if we slow it down, that could potentially cost us, which was Olson's argument, could cost us some additional money. And we want to be intentional. We want to make sure that this works and it goes through the way that we need it to, and that we are being really thoughtful in the decisions that we make moving forward. Councilmember DeBeauty had spoken again about how the vote really wasn't about zoning so much as people not wanting the project, to which then that was countered with that's not actually what it meant. There are lots of people that just want it slowed down. Mayor Pro Tem McDonald had said that her and DeBeauty must run in different circles because everyone she's talked to seems to want this project. And she claimed that, in fact, 5 people in the last week or 2 weeks have said that they're going to move out of town if the project doesn't go through. So there is still just a lot of discussion. Nothing is super, super clear. The couple things we know is the application deadline is extending. They'll be interviewing, though even that, depending on how many applicants they get, that may have to look different. And that decision will hopefully be made for who's on that committee by April 21st. So I hope this helps. I'm going to have other videos if you haven't already seen that break down the other parts of the work session.